And action. Welcome to another amazing episode of the Action Podcast. We are on episode 63, and today we have a combination. We were not able to get to the podcast last week, so we're going to do a combination this week of The Flash, which is obviously the big movie coming out of the DCEU. I was going to say universe, but that would be a repeat of universe. And then we're also going to review Transformers: Rise of the Beast. That's still actually doing pretty decently in the box office. It just pulled in 20 million, finished fourth and pulled in 20 million. So that's a solid number. I know obviously it's killing it worldwide, which is always what its target audience is. Transformers is just bigger in other countries. But anyway, we'll get into that. But let's go right into The Flash, Pete. This was my, number 2 most anticipated film of 2023. This was not on your list, but you reconsidered recently, or I think right after the podcast, you reconsidered, like, you know what, I actually am kind of looking forward to this. And so let's start with you. I'll get into it. I have some good thoughts on it, but I want to hear what you got to think. What do you think about The Flash?
It's true, it was not on my most anticipated films, but I remember, just like you were saying, like right afterwards, the trailer dropped that showed Michael Keaton as Batman. You're just like, no, oh my gosh. So there quickly became some real anticipation for this movie. And, you know, coming from a non-DC fan, like I just haven't really been a huge fan, except for like Batman, the Batman. Let's get that right.
Well, and the Dark Knight. Obviously, you'd love the Dark Knight. Dark Knight is one of your
favorites. But I'm talking about, like, you know, the Ben Affleck Batmans, the Aquamans. I mean, Wonder Woman's okay. You know, I think the first Wonder Woman was fine.
I love the first one.
There's just not a lot of excitement for that universe with me personally. But I was really excited to see this film. And I was excited about the director. First of all, the director, Andy, I think it's pronounced Muschietti.
Yeah, you're right.
But I mean, he's the director of like the It movies, so we already know that he's super great.
Yeah.
I thought Ezra Miller, as messed up as he is in his personal life, in real life, I thought he just crushed this film. I thought that playing the dual roles and having these two sort of same personalities, even though they were totally different, I thought the way that he pulled off that character was really, really great. Yeah. And then, without spoiling anything, like the people that kind of pop up.
Let's be clear. We're going to have a spoiler section in this. You can save it, but we're going to have a spoiler. We'll do it when I talk, because I do want to address it, because I think that's part of its.
Sure.
So keep going.
Sure, but we'll just move forward with like the actual review of the film first, and then we can kind of get into all the spoiler stuff later. But I thought it was really kind of well played out. I never really anticipated that there would be a Flash movie, to be honest.
Sure.
I didn't really know, like, what are they going to do with him? And I think that they just figured something out. And they did it really well. I think they executed it brilliantly, and I think it sort of brought me into this universe starting now, because I'm really kind of curious to kind of see what they do next. I don't know what they're going to do with Ezra Miller. I don't know if he's going to get his shit together or not. But I thought the way everything played out was really great. It was visually, I mean, it was good. I mean, there were moments where you could tell some of the CG wasn't that great, but it didn't really kind of take away from the experience itself. I laughed a lot in this movie. Yeah. I thought it was very, very comedic. And Michael Keaton, it's not a huge role, but I mean, he just comes in and it's almost like if you're a team of rookies and then all of a sudden this legend just comes in and just kind of drops a play or two in the game and drops the mic and then kind of walks away. He just came in and was like, you could tell that he just knew Batman, knew comic book movies, knew how to perform, and he just walked in and just crushed. But yeah, it was really well done. You got to go see this movie. It's really that good. And
Yeah,
it got a good rating too. It got a 7.4
yeah,
on
yeah.
IMDb. That's
Well,
good.
and James Gunn, who is obviously the Guardians of the Galaxy fame, Suicide Squad. He touted this as one of the best superhero movies of all time.
Well,
Um,
he's about to take over.
I think for our age group, I think that can apply. I think what I loved about this film is it's smart in the sense that it really tied into nostalgia, but it actually worked within the story. Like it wasn't forced upon you. It came naturally, and they made a lot of great decisions. I thought
And it was
because
silly at times,
so
to be honest.
100%.
Totally
I think
silly, but it worked.
it worked, yeah. But I think that's the tone because the Flash is he's not a serious quote unquote character, even though his story is. And
Right.
a lot of this movie got a lot of flack going into it, and I read a couple things, and people were just saying like there was no story, like blah blah blah, and like and after I watched it, I'm like I don't understand. And you and me, we're story guys. I don't understand why people were bashing the story. And the only thing I can come up with is that when it comes to DC and it comes to this universe in general, I think there's just going to be haters.
Yeah.
I think it's just the nature of the beast. You're just going to have people that aren't going to be into it, and that's fine. That's art, right? Like some people are going to love it, some people are going to hate it. That's art, and you got to deal with that. But I think again, at the end of the day, is it worth it? Should you go see it? I would say it's a resounding yes. I think if you love the original Batman, I would say if you love Batman, and Superman, like if you have any sort of feeling towards those characters, I would say see this movie because they are a big part of this story, and the Flash is kind of the vehicle to bring all these characters together. And yeah, I again, this was my number two anticipated film. So tough to actually live up to expectations. Air obviously did that and crushed it. I would say this is not on Air's level, but it's right there. And I do agree this is one of the better superhero films I've seen because they did such a great job of bringing in so many different storylines but actually making it work and connecting everything. Like it is very satisfying and gratifying when so let's get into a spoiler alert section because I think you have to talk about some of this stuff in this
In
review.
three,
So
2, 1.
spoiler alerts, fast forward the next 5 minutes, but let's talk spoiler alerts. So the biggest part of this film were cameos. And again, where I think this film really succeeded was bringing in different storylines. So very similar to what Spider-Man No Way Home did, which is it connected the movie universe that we as humans know to this storyline. And this movie also did the same thing, but it had multiple universes to connect, meaning it's Superman, it's Batman, it's Wonder Woman. So this film at different points connects all these different people that have ever played in the DC universe. So I won't even get into all of them. I'm going to say probably my favorite one. There's two. So my favorite one, and I'll let you have one of them, Pete. But my favorite one, and it's just a flash second. But if you've ever followed along, the DC universe and even Superman, in the early 2000s, Nicolas Cage was basically signed on to do a Tim Burton Superman film. And it got a lot of traction. It was in the news. And this is before like major internet. So the fact that we even know about this is a legend in itself. And so there's always this legend film that was out there. And this is Nicolas Cage in his prime, Tim Burton after the Batman films,
Yeah.
um, you know, and it just
They
it
even,
came to
I
fruition.
think even Jimmy Olsen was going to be Chris Rock. Like it was like
Yeah, yeah,
they
yeah,
were
yeah.
bringing in like
Yeah,
the
they were
big
trying to make a home
guns.
run. I'm assuming the budget probably just didn't work, and Warner Brothers, their guys didn't work. So, anyways, so yeah, there's a cameo of Nicolas Cage, Superman in this, and it just makes you crack up because it's just like there's no reason for it, but at the same time, it's like it's awesome that they even threw it in there because
Yeah. And it was Con Air, Nicolas Cage with
yeah,
like the longer hair. You know what I mean?
yeah,
But it's kind of you have to kind of explain why you see Nicolas Cage, because they go through a progression of like you see these different universes, like glimpses
Yeah.
of these different universes, and so you see Christopher Reeves,
Yeah.
Christopher Reeves,
Christopher
whoever the
Reeve.
original Superman was, and then you see
Christopher. Oh, you see George. Yeah. You see the original, the one that got shot.
yeah,
George.
George
Yeah.
something. Then you see Christopher Reeve, and
And
then
then
you see Helen
Helen
Slater,
Slater.
who
Yeah.
is Supergirl.
Right.
Um,
Which we grew up
then
watching.
then you see Nicolas Cage, and you're just like, what? Oh my
Yeah.
god! And then I don't think we should spoil the very end. I think the people need to
No, we'll
go and
leave
see.
that one.
But yeah, you get to see several different characters. But you're right, you stole the good one, Nicolas Cage as Superman. It was something that everybody always wanted to see in our age group.
Yeah.
Only for maybe even just for the curiosity factor, like how could Nicolas Cage have pulled off being Superman? Like it's just one of those things that we'll never get to see, and we finally got to see it. It was
Yeah.
just,
But it's
it was
film
just, it was
lore.
a great moment.
I mean, it's film lore. Like this is again, it's one of the greatest films that never happened. And whether or not, again, whether that film could end up being terrible, could end up being great, we will never know. But it was Tim Burton and Nicolas Cage, and again, it's just a great job writing because you have nothing to lose by adding that scene into it, all to gain. And if you get it, great. If you don't, no big deal. But I know for me, it made me laugh. Again, good feelings. Like this movie did a great job of just like giving you different feelings and yeah, nostalgia, the whole nine. And I want to see it again. I'm definitely trying to see this sooner than later, but I want to watch this
Yeah,
again.
it's great. But I will say, going back to story really fast, that you know that comment that you had said, that people are talking about how there's like no story. I think like at its core, with the mother, and having that be the driving force behind the Flash in this film, I thought that really kind of spoke to so many emotions, even if you still have a mother, and you don't. We still have our mother, so we
Sure.
can't really relate to what it's like to lose a mom, but
Yeah.
we know people who've lost their mom, and it's just tragic, right? And
Yeah.
so having that be the focal point of his drive, I thought they pulled it off really well. Even that end sequence when he sees her at the supermarket again, I mean, you couldn't help but get like, a
Oh
little bit
yeah,
kind
for
of
sure.
choked
For
up,
sure.
and really well done.
Yeah, for sure. And again, I think that's Andy, the director. Again, that like this was not a chump directing this. You know what I mean? This is not just a guy cashing a paycheck. I mean, he is an excellent director. He took over another franchise that is very difficult to take over, and did an excellent job. And again, going back to the story, the main message too. Again, when you're talking about themes, sure, the mother, like comic books, they always do a good job of that. But the real message of this film is, you know, you, trying to do too much, right? Like sometimes doing too much is worse than just let a mistake happen, and
And letting
that's
go.
and letting go. Yeah, and I think that's such a powerful message, especially in today's world. Everybody's trying to be perfect. Everybody's trying to make sure everything's right, and sometimes it's like, dude, just take the L and learn, and then move on, and grow
But
from it.
that was a very important scene, even when Michael
Yeah, that
Keaton
was
as
Michael
Bruce
Keaton saying
Wayne
that.
was talking, and he was like, and he really brought it home
Yeah,
for Flash, and was just like, look, man, because my parents died, I am who I am.
yeah.
So, as horrible and shitty as things are, you never know what that is going to
That's
sort
what
of
create. Yeah, that's what your shitty
kind of turn
circumstances what
into.
create you.
It's really, really like, it's that age old thing. It's like, well, would you change anything about yourself from the past? I'm like, well, no, not really, because I wouldn't be who I am at this moment if everything that has happened to me in my past didn't already happen. So, I mean, they really do hit on a lot of really amazing things, and they pulled it up brilliantly. Go and see this film.
Yeah, like obviously, like sometimes I wish you weren't my brother, but at the same time, like I'm
But
here today on this podcast because you are my brother. You know what I mean?
you
So it's
wouldn't be who you are today
yeah,
without him.
exactly, exactly.
You're welcome, by the way. I mean, you're welcome.
Yeah, yeah. Ultimately, we're both recommending this. Very rare when we both recommend something, especially Pete on a DC movie. So, guys, that should tell you all you need to know on whether you should see this movie or not. So, definitely check us out. The next one, we have another controversial film. Should you see it? Should you not? And it's Transformers: Rise of the Beast. It is just finished its second week in release. It just did 20 million this week. I believe it domestically it's at 75 million overall, but worldwide is where it's making its money. It's going to make its money for sure. So this is the second. So I'll give you a little lead up, and I'm going to start the review on this one. So this one, and this one's got a fucking okay, I dropped it. I don't care. We can cuss here. It's our podcast.
Yeah, we can cuss. I mean, we're live.
This one's got a Easter egg that I did not see coming, and it makes this movie worth it just for the Easter egg. And I'm excited to where we go. So when we talked about this on the preview,
I don't know if it's an Easter egg. I don't know if it's an
I might be using
definition of an Easter egg. It's little things that you find.
It's just a bomb. It's just a bomb drop. No, you're right. It's just a bomb drop.
Yeah.
It's just a bomb drop.
But
we talked about going into this that Paramount, I believe, is the people that did it, but they spent $10 million plus on creating a writer's room that included Steven Spielberg and some of the top writers in Hollywood. And their number one goal is to figure out what they can do with this franchise because they know it's got great content, but at the same time, it needs a facelift. And so, the last film, The Last Night, I believe, Transformers Last Night, it did very well overseas, not so much domestically, but the series was getting stale. They started out with Bumblebee. It was a prequel. Bumblebee was great. It's probably my second or third favorite Transformers film, depending on how you feel about it. And this is the sequel to that now, this film, Transformer: Rise of the Beast. And what I liked about Bumblebee is it's very pop culture-y in a good way, meaning soundtrack on point. Like it's musically motivated. So like you're really getting the characters are all musically inclined. Like the music really tells part of the story, and it's just great directed that way. And this movie continues the same thing. It's 1994-ish, I believe, early 90s. So you got like Biggie's on this,
something like that.
I think you got Dr. Dre on it. I think if I remember correctly. So the soundtrack is really on point. Again, it tells the story because that's the time period, and we lived that time period. And so it was really, really, really. I enjoyed that part of it, and the story I thought was pretty solid. What my main recommendation would be if you like Bumblebee. So I would rate this, and we're not doing an official list here, but if I would rate this new one, Rise of the Beast, is probably number 3 or 4 on the whole thing. The first Transformers, I absolutely love. I'm a big fan of the first Transformers. It's Michael Bay at his best. The music, Trevor Rabin, it's Steve Jablonsky, crushed it. Cinematography, amazing. I love Josh Duhamel. Tyrese Gibson's great. Even Do It guy. What's his name? I totally forgot.
Mark Wahlberg in the first one?
No, Mark Wahlberg's in the fourth one. It's Shia LaBeouf. Shia LaBeouf's in it. He's actually really good. This is prime Shia LaBeouf, and I love the first one. The second one I thought it was really good. I would almost put Bumblebee in the second one, probably tied. I'd put this one right after that one. But again, where this movie really shines is really what it leads into and where this franchise is going. And let's go into that, Pete, because let's hear your opinion on the movie, and then we'll go into spoiler alert section, and
then we can spoil everything. I come from this movie for me, and this franchise is very much it's very akin to the Fast and the Furious. For me, it's like these are movies that I never really see. They crush worldwide, and domestically, people are kind of getting old, right? It's getting a little tired. But because of this writer's room and bringing in the fantastic director who directed Creed 2, Stephen Caple Jr. I mean, this guy is one of these up and coming guys that I love. And even, I got to be honest, when I watched this film, I had a good time. It's just very tough for me to get past the fact that these are, CG robots that, they're very intricate. I mean, they're gorgeous. I mean, the
Yeah.
detail in these characters is just next level. I just don't find a lot of appeal in it.
And
I thought this kid,
you're not alone by that.
yeah, but I was very encouraged by the writers' room and the people that were brought in, and I had to see where they were going to take this and how they were going to do this. This kid Anthony Ramos, I thought he came in and he was almost very subtle,
Yeah.
but really good and really effective. I
He what
believed
makes this movie work.
I believed everything that he did, even down to um, sort of that love that he has for his younger brother, right? Like he just does it really well throughout. Story was fine. The villains were fine. And it literally wasn't until the very end when I thought the movie was over. And I thought I would have had to wait through a bunch of credits to get to this final blockbuster reveal, which I think everybody should do. I don't think they should make us sit through the credits for these things. And I like that. I appreciated that.
Actually, I don't disagree. I don't disagree with that either. Like,
I like how they just kind of said, look, for the credits, we're just going to blow your mind.
yeah.
And now, I mean, listen, if you're into the Transformers, I think you're going to absolutely love this film. Even if you're not into Transformers, I think that there's some real value that you can kind of take out of this film, especially visually. I think the
I don't know if I
music.
agree with that. I think it's tough. If you're not a Transformer fan, I can't possibly see you liking this movie.
I don't know. I
If you
think
don't
you
like
got
the
to.
first, if you don't like the first Transformers or Bumblebee, you're not going to like this movie.
Well, I'm not a fan, and I enjoyed this
No,
movie
you
quite.
said you like the first one.
Yeah, to be honest, I don't really remember the first one. It didn't
Uh,
have an impact on me. It didn't have an effect on me. I never saw Bumblebee. Like I said, I mean, this is
okay,
like Fast and the
fair.
Furious for me.
Okay, fair.
I think if you can appreciate great acting and great
Yeah.
music and great visuals, um, I think you would have a good time in this film. I don't think it's a lose for anybody. I think that people will walk out of this at least like, that was fine. You know what I
Yeah,
mean? It was good.
I think it's fair.
Then the really hardcore people are going to be like, oh my God, did you see the ending? Right?
Yeah.
So spoils. Go
All right.
ahead, Paul.
So we'll get into the spoiler alert. So at the very end, spoiler again, fast forward. Actually, this is the end of the podcast. So you're pretty much done if you want to hear the spoiler. At the end, this end scene, we see Michael Kelly. And you know Michael Kelly, you've seen him now in a few series, most importantly, House of Cards. He's the number 2 guy under Kevin Spacey, crushes that role. This guy is an awesome actor. And so you see
You've
him.
seen him in so much stuff. He's
Yeah. So
so
at the
good.
end, he's basically recruiting Anthony Ramos to this organization. And you're like, okay, maybe it's Section 8, because Section 8 was in the original one. That's where my mind went at first. Oh, he's recruiting him to Section 8. All of a sudden, he drops this business card and boom, it says G.I. Joe. And of course, if you know anything, Hasbro, who owns Transformers, owns G.I. Joe. And so now where you're seeing this universe is going to go is you're going to see a mashup, you're going to see a crossover of G.I. Joe and Transformers. And I loved the last G.I. Joe movie. The Rock was in it. He was Roadblock and Channing Tatum before he became a star. Like this, it's literally, they actually wrote in more scenes for him because he just blew up like right before it.
Right.
When he shot it, he was nobody, and then one of his movies released, and he was a star in between. And so, he was in it. I really like the last GI Joe. I was really hoping for a third one because I thought they were really starting to figure it out. And so I don't know if it's going to be new GI Joe people, whatever. But I don't even know where this is going to go. I mean, I would have to literally spend a lot of time thinking about it. But I'm excited. Transformers GI Joe. Let's do it.
Yeah, and GI Joe, the features, anyways. Um, I have no idea, right? Like I have no idea. Just like the Transformer franchise in features, right? Like I've just got no clue. But the
Yeah,
idea, the nostalgia behind it alone. I mean, those were two cartoons along with He-Man and Mask and like all these great cartoons that we used to watch growing up. Like if
yeah,
you
for
mash
sure.
those two together, like what does that even mean? Like what are
Yeah,
you gonna
I,
do with that? This is gonna be either really, really amazing or it's gonna just suck. But I don't think they can have a middle ground with these kind of things. Like this has got to be
yeah.
like the best. And I hope they really take their time with really kind of getting that story right.
And I think, yeah,
I,
I think they will. And I can think of some things.
they can't rely on just CGI for that film.
No,
It's not gonna work.
no, not at all. Again, story is going to drive everything. That's going to be the key to everything. But again, am I excited? Absolutely. This is one of the best news coming out of Hollywood since you knew like the MCU was basically actually, I'm sorry, since Disney bought like Star Wars. That's probably the level of this is when you knew someone else is taking over for the Star Wars franchise. It's going to be more content. This is pretty much the equivalent. Like,
I haven't been this excited since they announced that Nicolas Cage was going to be Superman in a film,
yeah,
right? Like I haven't been
yeah,
that excited since then.
great job on the callback, Pete. That's good
Thank you.
comedy right there.
We call that a callback in
Yeah,
comedy.
in the
Thank you.
comedy world. So yeah, so that's the big news. So ultimately, man, like I said,
Amazing.
it's a good time. I enjoyed both these films. A lot of people gave them flack, but I was a little trepid going into both of them. I was worried, but ultimately, I was very pleased with both of them. And again, Transformers dropping that bomb. I'm so excited to see where this goes, and it just shows. It just goes to show you that they're. I love the fact that they're just trying different stuff out. And again, if it doesn't work, man, awesome. Good job for trying because this is a great idea.
100%.
And if it fails, it fails. But this is still a brilliant idea, and it'll still make money. Just hopefully it's good.
Man,
But
I love that these past 2 weeks were two major films that I wasn't looking forward to, really,
yeah,
at the beginning of the year. And these both kind of, if if they didn't just blow me away like Transformers, it
and
gave me something to really be excited about. And that's one of the best things about movies, right? Like
yeah,
anything can be really good if you actually put in some thought and some effort. And I love that they just did that with Transformers and really took
yeah.
the time for development. Yeah,
And
we'll
this
see
is the
both of
start.
them.
This is the start of the blockbuster season, of course, summer blockbuster season. And again, you already got two big ones. Obviously, there's been a few ones before that. But next week, that's going to lead us into what's on tap. So there's a couple other films released. We didn't get to them, but we want to get this podcast out. But we'll put them on the next one. But we have The Blackening, which was already been released. Extraction 2 on Netflix.
Which I've heard, sorry, go back, Blackening. I heard that people not only were laughing throughout, but they're also super scared. And that's really difficult to
Yeah.
accomplish. So I'm kind of interested to see how they pull that off.
I like the trailer, so I'm looking forward to it. We were supposed to see it tonight, but we ended up canceling so we can do this podcast. We still may see it later tonight, but we'll see. But I'll definitely see it before the next podcast. Extraction 2 with Chris Helmsworth. If you like the first one, I've already seen the first part of it. If you like the first one, you're gonna like this one. I mean, this is just a solid action film. Um,
Mhm.
Pretty good story too, but I like it so far. Elemental, which came in second place in the box office, made 30 million. I'm not looking forward to that one, Pete. I'm not gonna lie to you. I'm not gonna lie to our audience here, guys.
Yeah,
I'm gonna watch it just to because I'm dedicated to this job, but I'm
I'll
not
see
looking
it. I'll see it with my kids for sure.
I'm not looking forward to watching that one. Zero desire, to be honest. But if there's one movie I will not watch, it's Elemental. But Asteroid City is also coming out. That's a Wes Anderson film. Wes Anderson has his audience. People love him. I'm not gonna lie, I'm not one of those guys, but I'm hoping maybe I'm more sophisticated and maybe I will like it.
Anything Tom Hanks for me, I'm in, right?
Yeah, yeah, and I'm definitely gonna check it
Except
out.
Elvis.
Yeah, and the number one film this upcoming week, Jennifer Lawrence starring in kind of an R-rated comedy, No Hard Feelings. It looks pretty funny, pretty fucking funny.
Yeah.
I'm just gonna say it. Looks pretty fucking funny. I am optimistic that it's going to be good. The trailer is actually pretty solid.
Just don't go over that F limit, because there is a limit, Paul.
Yeah, absolutely.
Before we get banned.
I saw the Red Band trailer of that one. It looked good, and so it's a pretty funny premise. So we'll see. She's pretty good in the romantic comedy type of atmosphere, and I think she can definitely pull this role off. So I'm excited to watch that. So,
and speaking of blockbusters, pretty soon, man, Indiana Jones, Mission Impossible. I mean,
yeah, we got a good summer.
What is going on, man? This is going to be a summer, man.
Summer of Action Podcast, that's for sure. So stay tuned for more. We're going to keep churning out more reviews, and we still got some future ones coming up. Shawshank Redemption will be coming up after this. We got Rocky 4, and then we got some few others coming up, and so we're going to keep reviewing more and more for you guys. Hopefully you like our content. Please like, share, subscribe. Appreciate you all. We love you. And with that, Pete, that is a cut. Thanks, guys.